So again, welcome this evening to Learn to Meditate. I'm Ashley Dinges. I'm one of the co-founders of the Weekly Dharma Gathering platform, and this is one in a series of several free offerings that we are making available to people right now, given how crazy our world is, given the interest in the wonderful resurgence of interest in meditation, particularly in a time of crisis. And we're hoping that this is a helpful resource to you. So this recording and others are available on the weeklydharmagathering.com website, and we'll also be offering Tonglen practice on Friday evenings through the first week of April. So please check those out. We also have a lot of guest teachers who give talks on Wednesday evenings, and we have another wonderful one coming up this week with Kelsey Brown, who is an amazing speaker, and you will have a blast if you come to that talk. So tonight's class is Learn to Meditate, and this is a very kind of simple, straightforward class where we will explore a breath-based meditation practice. And just a little bit of background about me and my style of teaching. I am a practitioner and a teacher in a Tibetan Buddhist lineage, the Shambhala Buddhist lineage. And one of the practices that we do a lot, and it's really a foundational practice in our practice lineage, is shamatha, or what is known as calm abiding meditation. And that is a mindfulness of breath practice. So our breathing is the object of meditation. And I think that this is a really wonderful way to begin a meditation practice, particularly because it doesn't require you to memorize anything or visualize anything or do any kind of chanting or anything with your speech. You just very simply will bring your awareness to the feeling of breathing in your body, what it feels like to have air circulating through your system, and we'll use that physical sensation of breathing as kind of the anchor for the consciousness and awareness during the practice. There are many styles of meditation. There are many different types of meditation, and certainly many lineages of meditation. So this is not the only way to meditate. It is a really good way, I think, to start meditating. It's also a really wonderful practice, even if you are a longtime meditation practitioner, to really be able to kind of slow things down, focus, and just kind of check in with your body, ground into your body, really having more an awareness of like what's going on with your body and your consciousness. So Nancy, that is totally fine. You are free to leave. I will have a little period of open questions before we start, so that you can ask them if you have them, and then you can just feel free. We'll be practicing through 7:30. So when you're ready to go, you can we won't think you're abandoning us.
That's why I wrote that. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So again, just recapping what we're going to do. We'll start with a guided practice. So I will guide us through the posture, the breathing, the gaze. And this is an open eye practice that I'll be leading you through. If you've practiced meditation before and you don't like practicing with your eyes open, that's fine. You can close them. If you haven't tried eyes open, I would encourage you to just follow along with the instructions and give it a shot, see if it works for you. And if not, I won't know because your video is not on, so you can close your eyes. So then we'll move into a period of silence. We'll break and have a short Q&A period, do one more practice, and then that will be it for the evening. And then, of course, you can access any of our videos online afterwards as well, too. So before we get started, are there any questions? And especially, Nancy, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to ask any before you need to leave us.
Thank you. I think I'm okay.
Okay, great. So we will just go ahead and start the practice then. So you can start by, we're going to start by working on our posture and our sitting, like basically our setting up the body for a meditation practice. And the reason why this is so important, and we often tell people, even if you've been meditating, it's great to check in with your body, check in with your posture, because the physical setup of meditation really helps to put you in the best position to support as you go through the practice. So it isn't like it's intentional in order to kind of minimize the amount of fidgeting or body movement that you need to do during the practice. So if you're sitting on the floor, I am in a chair because I'm having some back pain. So I will walk through both of these setups. If you're on the floor, you can sit with your legs crossed. The main thing is just making sure that your hips are slightly raised above your knees. That will help to keep blood flowing to your legs. It will stop you from having feet fall asleep. And if you're in a chair, you can just sit kind of upright, feet either on the floor. You could put a pillow or a cushion underneath your feet. I have my legs crossed in the chair that I'm sitting in. I also have a pillow behind my back to kind of help support my posture. And if you're on a cushion, you really just want to feel like your weight is centered right directly in the middle of the cushion. And just kind of having a sense of feeling very upright, uplifted. So I think one thing that can happen when we're talking about our posture is sometimes we tend to like over exaggerate it or try to kind of make ourselves have perfect posture, and that's not the goal. The goal is really just to feel like your torso is kind of solidly centered over your pelvis and that your spine is sort of rising up almost like the stem of a flower up to the sun. You can also visualize having a string kind of pulling up through your spinal column up out of the top of your head. So everything should just feel kind of uplifted. Your hands can rest on your thighs, and that can either be if you're on a cushion or in a chair. And to find the position for your hands, you can arch up. Sorry, I'm exaggerating this a bit. Hinge up and then drop your hands down, and they should land in a spot that's mid-thigh. And then your head just kind of should feel like it's a ball balancing at the top of the spine. So not clenching any of the muscles in your neck. One way to kind of set the posture for your head is to look straight forward and then just tuck the chin maybe an inch or two, inch and a half even. So you should have like a gently kind of tucked chin, gaze downward. And the gaze can fall just in front of you, maybe 2 to 3 feet on the floor. Not in any particular spot, so it can just be a very loose gaze. Unfocused. One thing that I always like to do is bring a sense of awareness to my peripheral vision, so on the sides. That will help as you work with an eyes open practice to kind of expand your whole visual field. And then this is the basic posture. So where you are now should feel comfortable, maybe not too comfortable. So there should be a little bit of effort in maintaining the position, but not forced. Sometimes we describe this as upright, but not uptight. And you can start as we move into the practice, just before we go into the meditation practice, just start to notice how your body's feeling. You don't have to do a full body scan if you're familiar with that, but maybe just noticing if there's any places in the body that feel tight, tense, um, any muscles that you want to just take an opportunity to kind of breathe into, loosen. You can take a few deep breaths here. I like to always bring in awareness to my facial muscles. I have a tendency to hold a lot of tension in my face. resting the tongue on the roof of your mouth will also kind of loosen up your jaw and your face muscles. So it can almost like let your jaw hang open a little, even with your mouth shut, and rest the tongue on the roof of the mouth. That'll help to just kind of loosen everything up a bit. And from here, this is your posture. Again, you should feel comfortable. So from here, we're just going to start by bringing a sense of an awareness to the cycle of breathing in your body. So you may feel that in a different place than I do. For me, I like to bring a sense of awareness into my heart center, center of my chest. That's where I feel my chest expanding and contracting. You may also notice the air moving in and out of your nose. What we're really trying to pinpoint here is the feeling of breathing in the body, not necessarily the idea of breathing. So, and what I mean by the difference there is that sometimes when we try to focus on breathing, we can make our breath cycle a little bit forced or manufactured or regulated. And so that's why we like to try to find some feeling that we can bring the attention to. And then once you've identified that, you can again just shift your attention to whatever that feeling is for you this evening. And just try to keep your attention on that feeling of breathing for as long as you can. Inevitably, you'll think of something else or maybe hear a sound in your environment. You might realize that you're in kind of a daydream or in your imagination. And when that happens, you can just redirect the attention back to the feeling of breathing. So you can think of using the breath as your anchor for your awareness. And that cycle of awareness on the breath, distraction, noticing distraction, coming back to the breathing is the practice of meditation that we're working with. So we're not really trying to change our experience or think of like, oh, I'm so distracted, I'm doing this wrong, I have so many thoughts. You just say, okay, there's some thoughts, let them go, back to the breath. So that is what we'll be working with as we kind of walk through or go through this period of silent practice. So when I ring the gong, we'll start and end a period of sitting where I won't be talking. But again, that focusing on the body, breathing, feeling the breath in the body, getting distracted, coming back. You can just continue to work with this practice on your own at your own pace for a period of silence, and I'll ring the gong to start and end the practice together. So as you start to come out of your practice, you can bring a little bit of movement back into the body, maybe kind of shrugging your shoulders, maybe stretching a little bit. Hmm, moving in whatever way feels comfortable. Hmm, cracking your neck. um, so that was about a 15-minute sit, silent sit. And I think I would actually love if anyone has questions, if you want to either come on screen or ask them in the chat. This would be a great time for that. And if you don't, or you're thinking of questions, and I will also just keep talking. But basically, I think that this is a really great practice. As I said, either if you're starting meditation or if you are a longtime practitioner, because it really does help to bring your awareness into this physical experience that your body is going through, which is breathing. And it, there's not a lot of opportunity to overcomplicate it. Inherently we will, because that's the way that the mind works. And so it's interesting to start with this kind of a practice, I think, too, especially if you feel like working with kind of mind body connection is something that you're working on, then this is a great practice to do um, for that. I also we often get a lot of questions of like, well, what is the point, like what's the point of bringing your awareness to your body breathing? And the body breathing is really just that's just the point of awareness of this particular type of practice. But with any meditation, if you're doing a mantra or a visualization practice, you would be using that as your object of meditation. So you'd be practicing holding your mind to a visualization or a chant or a mantra. So it's really the same type of practice, just a different object of meditation. It can feel a little bit different to do a more energetic style of practice like that. But when it comes down to it, what we're trying to really do is become more familiar with our experience, with our minds, with starting to see kind of the thought processes that come and go as we sit and are bored or maybe stressed out or full of thoughts or working with anxiety, and kind of watching it come and go. And um, that kind of a practice is really can be really helpful, especially in times like we're in, where things feel very uncertain and maybe feel a bit groundless. To have a practice where um, we're working with also, I mean, we're also in a way working with impermanence as well, because um, an act as simple as bringing your attention to your breathing can be, you can, for as simple as that can seem, you can end up going through a whole range of emotions and thoughts and experiences with that, depending on where you are on any particular day. So, watching your thought patterns change and shift and emotions come and go um, is also something that can be helpful too, especially if, like now, we're in a time that feels uncertain or perhaps fearful. Just remembering that things are always in motion and shifting and changing, and that really our mind is not just kind of linear or stuck in one place, and things can feel very dynamic and in motion, even when we feel maybe like stuck or frustrated. So working with this style of practice can is just like a very simple way to start with that. Um, okay, great question. What do you do when you find your mind wandering? Um, what you do is you are very happy because you realize that your mind is wandering. So if you find that your mind is wandering, it means you're paying attention to something, and it's probably not wandering at that point. So usually, like, for what happens for me is that it's wandering, I'm in a daydream, having a really lovely time, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm in a daydream. So you just notice it first you say, I'm in a daydream, or my mind is wandering. And then you say, okay, back to the breath. And you come back to the breath, and you might stay with the breath for like 2 seconds, and then you're wandering again, and you come back again. Maybe you hold your mind to your breathing for 5, 10 seconds. Mind is wandering again. You just keep coming back. So you just keep over and over saying, okay, I'm still wandering. I'm gonna let that go. Come back to the breathing. What you don't want to do, and this is something that, I think anyone who meditates experiences this, which is what we want to avoid is like the beating yourself up around it. So saying like, I can't do this, or I'm just, I'm so distracted. I can't keep my mind to my breath at all. And that just might be how it is that day for you. And what you can glean from that, and this is part of the familiarization practice of really starting to look at the quality of your mind, is saying, I'm really distracted today. That's just what's going on for me today. I'm still going to try to do the practice, but I'm very distracted. And then maybe you'll try again tomorrow and you won't wander, or maybe you will again. But I would say the fact that you're even noticing that your mind is wandering is good, because that's kind of the first part of it. I would also say, this is probably a good time to mention how to establish a practice. So something that I think is challenging is when you start meditating, it's a little bit like, what am I doing? I'm just sitting on the floor breathing. Why am I doing this? Is this actually helpful? It doesn't feel helpful, or I don't even know if I'm meditating. So I think that something that's wonderful is doing guided live instruction with teachers, because it gives you a chance to ask these questions. Um, and there's something about doing group practice, whether it's in person or even online, that is sort of similar to kind of group fitness classes, where you're naturally held accountable because you're with other people, even if we can't always see each other on screen. So that's a really great thing to do. There are a lot of online resources right now because people are stuck at home. So a lot of teachers are teaching on various platforms. So I would highly recommend that. And I also recommend, at with a home practice, just trying to sit for 5 to 10 minutes a day at the very beginning, even if it's just a very short amount of time, just doing it um, over and over again until it starts to build into a pattern, is really how you start to establish like a more lengthy or longer practice after that. So you could start with 5 to 10 minutes a day, and then maybe eventually you get to a point where you're doing like 15 or 20 if that feels good, or even practicing twice a day. And one last bit of information, like that I like to say too, is that I always find it's better to sit at the time of day that feels natural to you. So, like, a lot of people are morning people. I am not a morning person. I do not meditate in the morning. It doesn't work for me. I don't get up and then I get mad at myself for not doing it. Um, I usually meditate midday. Sometimes I meditate um, in the gap period between ending my workday and going into the evening, because that's a natural kind of transitional point in my day. So do what feels right for you with your schedule. Um, it can be difficult to just sit when you're very anxious, and it might make you more anxious to try to sit. That's true. So forcing yourself to do anything is not a great way to work with anxiety. Um, I find that if I'm feeling anxious, um, this isn't exactly part of the instruction that I just gave, but something that, well, this works for me. It doesn't work for everyone, but counting your breaths can be helpful too if you really need like a way to really focus on the breathing without it feeling forced or feeling like, I think there is a sense, and I was alluding to this in the instruction that I was giving, which is that if you're over focusing on your breathing, there's a tendency to like feel like you're manipulating the breath or kind of forcing it or going too quickly, that tends to make me feel also more anxious. Um, so counting breaths can help. Also, dropping the practice completely and just sitting can help. So not doing like a formal practice per se, but still using the same technique that we used in terms of setting up the body, setting up the posture, setting up the gaze, and then just sort of sitting in space without kind of holding yourself to a formal practice can be very helpful too. Um, One other thing that I do if I'm feeling anxious and I feel like I can't sit, especially because many of us are stuck in our homes right now, is to just go out and look at the sky, and you can kind of maybe have like like a general awareness of your breathing too, but just going out and like looking at open space can sometimes help if you're feeling claustrophobic or shut down around sitting practice. Sometimes I think eyes open can do that too sometimes if you're kind of tunneling in on a spot on the floor. So one general tip that I like to give too is just if something's not working, just try changing it slightly. So if the eyes open isn't working, close them for a few moments, maybe take a couple of breaths and then reset and start again. If that doesn't work too, you can also try changing your gaze. So if you're looking down like this and things start to feel kind of tunneling down, just raise the gaze a couple of inches. Simple things like that. It's like, to me, finding what is comfortable and works for you to help you get into the space is great. And you should always do what makes you comfortable and never try to feel like you're forcing. I think it's like the distinction to make is am I not sitting because I don't want to sit, or am I not sitting because I'm forcing myself to do something? And so having an awareness of that too can be helpful when you're working with um, feeling anxious or tense. Okay, so we have like 9 minutes left. So I think we'll do one more really short sit. And if you have more questions, you can just send them in the chat and I will see them. So we'll just go straight into it. We won't really, I'm not going to set it up. I'm not going to do the posture thing again. Just resume back into, or go back into the posture that you were in before, letting your arms fall. This is something that helps too sometimes if you're doing back-to-back sits, is to sometimes just go right there. Don't spend a ton of time fidgeting, just kind of drop into your posture. Head looking forward, chin slightly tucked, gaze is dropped. And then just go straight back to where you were before, straight back to noticing the body breathing. Maybe you even kind of focus back on the same sensation that you were working with before. And then we'll start again with the practice. So I'll ring the gong to start and end. So once again, you can begin to bring some movement back into the body, maybe wiggling fingers and toes, stretching a bit. Don't hit your wall. And maybe just notice what that experience felt like compared to the first time that we practiced. And you don't necessarily have to do anything with that, but it's good to always just kind of pay attention to um, sort of the quality of the practice for you. If there's any last questions, I can take them in the chat. And if not, then this recording again will be available to you on the products page of the Learn to Meditate. And we also will have the Friday evening Tonglen practice. So if you're looking for a different different style of practice, Tonglen is a wonderful way to kind of open up beyond ourselves and start to explore offering energy and kind of um, yeah, just positive energy out to other people, and especially during these times of we're isolated and we can't be with people. Sometimes visualizing others can be helpful in not feeling alone. So thank you so much for joining me. And again, please check out our other classes that we have coming up on Wednesday and Friday. And otherwise, I will see you next time.